My name is Lydia Peterson. I'm 42 years old, and I'm a carpenter. Not the kind who buys discount tools for weekend projects and calls herself handy. I mean, licensed, insured, 20 years in the trade, custom cabinetry, restoration work, built-ins, finish carpentry. The kind of work where mistakes cost thousands and reputation takes decades to build. I started at 22 carrying lumber and sweeping sawdust off job sites where nobody thought a woman would last 6 months. 20 years later, I own my business, own my house, and own every single tool in my workshop. That last part matters. Because this story isn't really about tools. It's about what happens when someone decides the life you built belongs to them. My workshop sits behind my house in a detached garage. I converted myself. 3 bedrooms, older neighborhood, good bones. I bought it 11 years ago because the garage was big enough for a proper workspace. Inside were 20 years of my career. Festool track saw system, saw stop table saw, Lie-Nielsen hand planes, Festool domino joiner, Makita drill sets, router kits, chisels, clamps, squares, Japanese pull saws, rough replacement value, about $15,000. Actual value, more. Some tools came from retiring tradespeople. Some came from my mentor when he left the industry. Some are discontinued. Some have dents and scratches I could identify blindfolded. Every tool had a place. Every place mattered. Then there was my boyfriend, Trevor. We'd been together about 2 years. He moved into my house 8 months earlier. He worked insurance claims, steady paycheck, good with words. The type of man who could sound reasonable while dismissing everything you cared about. At first, he loved telling people his girlfriend built things for a living. Then slowly, it changed. My workshop became your little space. My business became cabinet stuff. My career became cute. And his father, Raymond, became a problem. Raymond retired from auto body repair and recently reinvented himself as a renovation expert after binge-watching home improvement shows. Every visit followed the same routine. Coffee, small talk, then straight to my garage. He picked up planes, opened tool cases, held chisels by the blades, left fingerprints on polished steel. "You know," he said once while lifting my track saw rail, "must be nice having all this equipment sitting around." Sitting around, like my workshop existed for decoration. I stayed polite. Then I made the mistake of lending him one tool, a Makita impact driver. He returned it with sawdust packed into the vents and the chuck partially stripped. No apology, no warning, nothing. After that, I told Trevor, "Your dad's welcome here. The workshop isn't unless I'm with him." Trevor laughed. "You're territorial." "No," I said. "I'm protective." About 3 months ago, Trevor brought up Raymond's kitchen renovation while we ate dinner. "I already told Dad he can borrow your cabinet saw and some Festool stuff." I looked up slowly. "You told him what?" "He needs better equipment." "No." He blinked. "That's it? No?" "Yes. No. He'll return them. He damaged my impact driver." That was one time. One time is enough. The conversation died. Or so I thought. 2 weeks later, he tried another angle. "You know, you own way more tools than one person needs. I use all of them. You cannot possibly. I rotate equipment depending on jobs." He rolled his eyes. "You're weirdly attached to your little workshop." Little workshop. 20 years reduced to 2 words. I should have listened harder. 6 weeks ago, Trevor walked into the kitchen after talking with his father. He leaned against the counter casually. "I'm giving your tools to my dad." I laughed once because surely I misheard. "What?" "He needs them more. My tools?" "You're not even that handy anyway," he said. "You mostly make cabinets." He's doing real renovation work. I remember putting my coffee down because my hand suddenly didn't feel steady. 20 years. Countless job sites. Bleeding knuckle for this holidays. Clients booked months out. Not handy. I stood. Those tools pay for this house. His expression changed immediately. There it is. Your house, your garage, your rules. My tools are mine. What's even mine in this relationship? Your things. He crossed his arms. I'm giving him some of them. No, you'll buy new ones. I could feel anger climbing my throat, but underneath it was something worse. Disrespect. The kind that had apparently been there for months while I kept explaining myself. I looked directly at him, over my dead body. Trevor rolled his eyes and walked away. I thought being clear would end it. 4 days later, I pulled into my driveway after finishing a built-in installation across town. I hit the garage opener. The door lifted slowly. My pegboards were empty. My rolling chest was gone. My Festool stacks were gone. The shadows where tools had hung were still visible on the wall. For 3 full seconds, my brain refused to understand what my eyes were seeing. Then I realized. Someone had emptied 20 years of my life while I was at work. I stayed in my truck for maybe 3 minutes. Not because I was emotional, because my brain kept trying to fix the picture. Maybe I moved things. Maybe I loaned something out. Maybe I was looking wrong. But the workshop was empty. The bare hooks on the pegboards looked worse than if someone had smashed everything. You could still see the faded outlines where tools had hung for years. I got out slowly. My rolling tool chest? Gone. Saw stop? Gone. Lie-Nielsen planes in the custom case I built myself? Gone. Everything that made me capable of working Monday morning? Gone. I walked inside. Trevor sat on the couch scrolling through his phone. He looked up and smiled. Hey, long day? My voice barely worked. Where are my tools? Oh. He shrugged. Dad picked them up. I stopped moving. What? He brought his buddy in a trailer. They got everything in like 2 hours. 2 hours! 20 years packed into 2 hours! You gave my tools to your father? His face tightened immediately. I told you I was going to. You stole them. Oh my God, Lydia, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. I walked back toward the kitchen because suddenly standing felt difficult. Those tools are worth over $15,000. They're objects. They're my income. You can buy more. I stared at him. I have installs scheduled next week. Borrow tools. From who? He shrugged. Other carpenter people. Other carpenter people. Like we were all part of some magical community storage unit. I pulled my phone out and called Raymond. He answered immediately. Lydia, beautiful equipment. We just got the table saw set up. My stomach dropped. Raymond, I didn't authorize this. Silence. What? I did not give anyone permission to take my tools. Another pause. Then confusion. Trevor said you were clearing out the garage. No. Well, we already moved everything. I need my property returned immediately. His tone shifted. Sounds like something you two should work out. This is theft, he exhaled. Lydia, I'm not getting in the middle of relationship problems. Then he hung up. I turned toward Trevor. He still looked annoyed. You told him I was getting rid of them. I told him you were cleaning out the garage. That is not the same thing. He rolled his eyes. We live together. What's yours is mine. No. I pointed toward the garage. That workshop existed before you. He stood. You're being controlling. I looked at him for a long second. Then I called the police. Not because I wanted drama, because I wanted my livelihood back. The dispatcher asked if it was domestic. No, I said. It's theft. Trevor heard every word. His face changed instantly. You're calling the cops on my dad? You stole $15,000 worth of equipment. He has a heart condition. Then, he shouldn't be moving $1,800 table saws. He started pacing. Then he disappeared into the bedroom. I heard him calling his father. Don't answer the door. Do late. 40 minutes later, officers arrived at Raymond's house. I know because one called me afterward. Your tools are here, he said. I sat down at the kitchen table. Everything looks like it. Apparently, the officers asked Raymond if he had proof the tools were gifted. He didn't. They asked why my initials were engraved into multiple cases, why my registration stickers were attached, why professional equipment worth thousands suddenly appeared in his garage. Then they explained something important. Property valued above a certain amount meant felony territory. One word changed everything. Felone. Raymond cooperated immediately. Trevor didn't. He drove over while officers were still there. Started yelling. At police. At his father. At reality. He apparently told officers I was vindictive and controlling. One officer answered simply, taking property without permission and relocating it is theft. Trevor called him condescending. The next morning, my tools came back. Raymond arrived with the trailer. He carried each piece carefully, one by one. When the last case was inside my garage, he stood awkwardly near the driveway. I honestly thought you agreed. I looked at him. For the first time since this started, someone looked ashamed. I know, I said quietly. He nodded slowly. Then he said something that changed everything. She's always been like this. I frowned. He continued, takes what she wants, figures everyone adjusts. I watched him leave. Then I walked back into my workshop. Every empty spot was filled again. But something still felt missing. Trust. That night I printed eviction paperwork. Because someone willing to empty your workshop while you're earning a living isn't confused. They're comfortable stealing from you. I handed Trevor the 30-day notice that same night. He didn't even take the paper. I'm not accepting that. You don't need to. I placed it on the counter. It's also being sent certified. His eyes widened. You're seriously ending this? You stole from me. I relocated tools. You committed theft. He scoffed. The police are idiots. Cool, I said. Tell that to the detective. That shut him up for about 12 hours. Then the campaign started. Suddenly I was the villain. His mother called first. How dare you send armed officers to my husband's home? Your husband had stolen property in his garage. He could have had a heart attack. Then Trevor shouldn't have used him as a drop-off location. She hung up. Then came his brother. You need to apologize. For what? For ruining our family, I laughed once. Your brother emptied my workshop. They're tools. I took a breath. If someone took your laptop, your work files, and your paycheck, would they still just be objects? Silence. Then he muttered something and disconnected. Trevor got worse. Every conversation became revisionist history. You're destroying us over material things. No, I said. You destroyed us over entitlement. He started telling mutual friends. I called police on a retired man over garage equipment. Garage equipment. Funny how people change words when the truth sounds bad. A week later, I inspected everything carefully. Most of my tools were okay. Mostly. One Lie-Nielsen plain blade had a chip. My domino joiner had sawdust packed into places it shouldn't. The saw stop alignment was off. I spent nearly an entire Saturday recalibrating equipment. 8 hours. 1 full day of billable work gone. That cost money. So I documented everything. Photos, receipts, damage estimates. Then I contacted insurance. I mostly wanted a record. Instead, my agent suggested filing. Damage. Cleaning. Lost work. Total around $755. Not huge. Important anyway. Then something happened Trevor didn't expect. Insurance pursued reimbursement. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. He walked into the kitchen holding it. They're charging me? Yes. This is insane. No, removing $15,000 of professional equipment is insane. He slammed the letter down. We lived together. We dated. There's a difference. He even met with a lawyer. Apparently he believed 8 months living together somehow made my property partly his. The lawyer disagreed. Everything belonged to me. Purchased before him. Registered to me. Insured by me. Documented by me. The detective handling the case called 2 days later. I gave him everything. Serial numbers. Photos. Insurance documents. Texts. Especially one message Trevor sent. I did it while you were working, because you would have made a scene. Premeditation. That mattered. Raymond cooperated too. Confirmed Trevor told him I was clearing out the garage. That statement destroyed Trevor's version of events. The detective finally called back. The case is going to review. I didn't celebrate. I just kept working. 15 days into the notice period, Trevor arrived home with his mother. They sat at my kitchen table. My kitchen. In my house. His mother folded her hands dramatically. You're tearing apart a family. No, I pointed at Trevor. He did. She kept talking. Her husband was embarrassed. Trevor made a mistake. Relationships require forgiveness. Then she said the sentence that ended any guilt I still carried. My son could have done much better than a carpenter anyway. I looked around the kitchen slowly. The cabinets. The trim. The island. The hardwood repair. Everything built by me. My little business paid for all of this, I said. She stood. You'll end up alone. I nodded. Better alone than robbed. Trevor moved out on day 28. 2 days early. He took clothes, bathroom stuff, kitchen supplies, and every roll of toilet paper, petty to the end. Standing in the driveway, he looked at the workshop behind me. I hope you and your precious tools are happy together. I looked past him toward my garage. My tools never lied to me. He had no response. A few weeks later, the case finished. No felony charges, property returned too quickly, relationship complications, jury uncertainty, the usual. But Trevor still signed a diversion agreement, restitution, administrative fees, community service, a formal acknowledgement that the property was taken without authorization. He signed because the alternative was worse. The check arrived later, $955. I used part of it fixing tools. The rest went into my workshop. Then I changed things. Deadbolt on the garage, security camera, updated inventory spreadsheets, photos of every tool, copies stored everywhere. Paranoid? Maybe. Prepared? Definitely. The first Saturday after Trevor left, I reorganized the entire workshop. New foam inserts, fresh labels, sharpened every blade, releveled the saw stop. 9 hours straight. Best Saturday I'd had in 2 years. Now when I walk into that garage, everything is where it belongs, including me. Because some people see what you build and want to help protect it. Others see what you build and wonder how much they can take. Trevor taught me which kind he was,